My husband Tom died 3 weeks ago, and in his will, he left me a beautiful paid-off house in Portland, Oregon. 2 cars, a Lexus and a Toyota truck, and a bank account with $175,000, all in my name only. I made a split-second decision not to tell my son Derek about any of it. Everyone thought I was crazy for keeping it secret. But 1 week after the funeral, Derek showed up at my tiny rental apartment with his new fiancée Amber. And what they said next made my blood run cold. I suppose I should start at the beginning. My name is Kyle, and I had been married to Tom for 42 years. 42 beautiful, complicated, wonderful years. We met when I was 26 and he was 28, both of us working at a diner in Seattle. He was an electrician who came in every morning for coffee and eggs, and I was the waitress who always made sure his cup stayed full. Tom was the kind of man who worked with his hands and saved every single penny. Not because he was cheap, but because he grew up poor and never wanted to feel that kind of insecurity again. While other couples we knew were buying boats and taking fancy vacations, Tom and I lived modestly. We raised our son Derek in a small 3-bedroom house in a quiet Seattle neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but it was ours, and it was filled with love. Derek was our only child. We tried for more, but it never happened. So we poured everything we had into that boy. Maybe that was our first mistake. Tom used to joke that Derek was spoiled, but I would defend him. He was our baby, our miracle, our whole world. Tom died suddenly on a Tuesday afternoon. He was 68 years old, up on a ladder fixing someone's electrical panel, when his heart just stopped. The doctors said it was massive and instant. He probably did not feel any pain. That should have been a comfort, but it was not. I wanted to believe he had time to think of me, to remember us, to know how much he was loved. But death does not work that way. The funeral was small. Tom had a few buddies from work, some neighbors, his sister Patricia, who flew in from Boise, and of course Derek. But Derek seemed distracted the entire time. He kept checking his phone during the service. He left before everyone else, saying he had to get back to work. He barely hugged me. At the time, I thought maybe he was just processing grief differently. Men do that sometimes, especially with their fathers. 3 days after the funeral, I met with Mr. Harrison, Tom's attorney. I had no idea Tom even had an attorney until Mr. Harrison called me. We met at his office downtown, a small place above a bakery that smelled like cinnamon rolls. Mr. Harrison was maybe 70, with kind eyes and a gentle voice. He handed me the will, and I read it 3 times before I believed what I was seeing. Tom had left me everything. Not half, not most. Everything. A house in Portland that I did not even know he owned. 2 cars, both paid off. And a bank account with $175,000 in it, all in my name only. I sat there in shock. We had been living in a small rental apartment for the past year, paying $900 a month. Tom had told me he sold our old house to downsize, that we needed to simplify our lives as we got older. I believed him. I never questioned it. Why would I? But now I understood. Tom had been planning, preparing, protecting me. The will was very specific. It said, "To my beloved wife Kyle, sole ownership of all assets, properties, and accounts. She alone shall determine their use and distribution." Mr. Harrison watched me carefully as I processed this information. Then he said something that stuck with me. He said, "Tom came to see me about 6 months ago. He was very clear about his wishes. He said you would need security, and that you should have complete control." I asked Mr. Harrison why Tom would do it this way. Why not leave something to Derek? Mr. Harrison chose his words carefully. He said, "Tom loved his son, but he loved you more. And he trusted you to make the right decisions." I left that office with copies of everything, my head spinning. I drove back to my little rental apartment, sat on my worn couch, and stared at the papers. Something in my gut told me not to mention this to Derek yet. I could not explain it. It was just a feeling, a mother's instinct that something was off. Tom had always been a cautious man. If he left everything to me alone, there was a reason, so I decided to wait. I would keep this to myself for a little while, just until I figured out what to do next. I put all the documents in a folder and hid them in the back of my closet. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about Tom, about the house I had not seen yet, about why he kept all of this secret from me. And I kept thinking about Derek and how distracted he had been at the funeral. 2 days later, I got a text message from Derek. It was short and cold, not like how he usually communicated with me. It said, "Mom, Amber and I need to talk to you about something important. Coming over tomorrow. Don't make plans." I read that text 5 times. The tone of it sent chills down my spine. This was not my son asking to visit his grieving mother. This was someone issuing a command. I texted back, "Okay," but inside, I was grateful I had not told him about the inheritance yet. That instinct I had was getting stronger. Something was very, very wrong. Derek showed up the next afternoon with Amber. I had only met her twice before, both times briefly. She was 32 years old, almost young enough to be Derek's daughter, though he was only 40. She had long blonde hair that looked expensive, fake nails painted bright red, and she was wearing designer clothes I recognized from window displays at the mall, the kind I could never afford. Derek had been divorced for 6 months from his wife Sarah. They had been married for 12 years, and I loved Sarah like a daughter. The divorce came out of nowhere. One day they seemed fine, and the next day Derek was moving out. Sarah called me crying, but she would not tell me why it happened. She just kept saying, "Ask your son." Now here was Amber, walking into my small apartment and looking around like she smelled something bad. Derek sat me down on my couch. He did not ask how I was doing. He did not ask if I needed anything. He just launched right into it. "Mom, we need to discuss your living situation," he said. I blinked at him. "My living situation?" Amber chimed in, her voice high and fake sweet. "This place is so depressing, Kyle. You should not be alone here, grieving. You need to be around family." I looked at my son. "I'm doing okay, Derek. I just need time." He shook his head. "No, Mom. You're not thinking clearly. Dad just died. You're going to come live with us." The way he said it was not an invitation. It was an announcement. I felt my stomach tighten. "I appreciate the offer, but I'm fine here." Derek leaned forward. "Mom, let's be realistic. Dad didn't leave you anything, did he? I know how he was with money. He was always worried about every dollar. He probably had nothing saved." I stayed very still. I did not say a word. Derek continued. "So here's what Amber and I have been discussing. You'll sell whatever furniture you have here, and you'll move into our guest room. It's small, but it's comfortable. You can help around the house, maybe cook dinner sometimes. And we figured you could contribute $600 a month for groceries and utilities. That's fair, right?" My mouth went dry. $600. Amber smiled brightly. "It's actually a great deal. Rent anywhere else would be way more. Plus, you'll have family around. And when Derek and I have kids, you can babysit. Free childcare is so expensive these days." I looked at my son, really looked at him. This man sitting in front of me was 40 years old. He had a good job as a sales manager at a car dealership. He made decent money, and he was asking his 67-year-old widowed mother to pay him rent and provide free childcare. Derek must have seen something in my face because he softened his tone a little. "Look, Mom, I know this is a lot, but I've already looked into your Social Security. You get $1,800 a month, right? So if you give us $600, you'll still have $1,200 for your personal expenses. That's more than enough. It's perfect. Perfect." He had already calculated my income, already decided how much of it he was entitled to. I found my voice. "I need time to think about this." Derek frowned. "Think about what? What else are you going to do?" "I just need time," I repeated. Amber sighed dramatically. "Kyle, we're trying to help you here. You should be grateful." That word, grateful, hit me like a slap. My husband of 42 years had just died, and I was supposed to be grateful that my son was offering to let me pay him rent to sleep in his guest room. I stood up. "I appreciate you both coming by, but I need to process everything. I'll let you know." Derek stood too, and I saw a flash of anger cross his face. "Don't take too long, Mom. We've got plans we need to finalize." They left a few minutes later, and I stood at my window watching them get into Derek's car. They sat there for a moment, and I could see them arguing about something. Derek looked angry. Amber was gesturing wildly. Then, just before they drove away, I saw Amber pull out her phone and show Derek something. They both smiled, and that smile made my blood run cold. I sat back down on my couch, my hands shaking. That feeling in my gut was screaming now. Something was very, very wrong with my son. And thank God I had not told him about the house, the cars, or the money. I picked up my phone and called Tom's sister, Patricia. She answered on the second ring. Patricia, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Of course, Kyle. What's wrong? Did Derek ever ask you about Tom's finances? Before Tom died. There was a long pause. Then Patricia said quietly, yes. He called me about 2 weeks before Tom passed. He asked if Tom had any assets worth knowing about. I thought it was strange, but I figured maybe he was trying to help you both with estate planning. Why? My heart sank. He was planning this. Even before Tom died, he was planning this. I told Patricia everything. About the will, about Derek's visit, about the demand for rent money. Patricia was silent for a long moment. Then she said something I will never forget. She said, Tom knew. He must have known. That's why he left everything to you alone. He was protecting you from your own son. After we hung up, I sat in the dark for hours, thinking about my life, my marriage, and my son. And I made a decision. I was not going to tell Derek anything. I was going to trust Tom's judgment, even from beyond the grave. 3 days later, just as I was starting to relax, thinking maybe Derek would drop it, Amber called me. Her voice was different this time, less fake sweet and more demanding. Kyle, Derek and I need an answer. We've already made arrangements based on you moving in. We've actually already booked a vacation to Cancun, and your $600 a month is going to cover the payment plan for it perfectly. My blood froze. She had just admitted it. They had already spent money they did not have, counting on me to pay for it. She realized her mistake immediately. I mean, we just thought, since you'll be living with us anyway, it made sense to plan ahead. But the damage was done. I knew exactly what this was about. This was not about caring for their grieving mother. This was about money. My money. Money they assumed I had from Social Security, and probably money they assumed Tom left behind. I hung up without responding, and that's when I knew this was going to get worse before it got better. The next morning, I did something I had never done before. I called Derek's ex-wife, Sarah. We had not spoken since the divorce, mostly because Derek made it clear he did not want us communicating. But I needed answers, and I had a feeling Sarah had them. She answered on the third ring. Kyle. Hi, Sarah. I know this is unexpected, but I need to talk to you about Derek. There was a pause, then a sigh. I was wondering when you would call. I heard about Tom. I'm so sorry. He was a good man. Thank you. Sarah, I need to know something. Why did you and Derek really get divorced? Another pause, longer this time. Then Sarah said, he left me for Amber. He met her at his gym about 8 months ago, and she convinced him he deserved better. Better than a high school teacher who made $50,000 a year. She works in real estate, drives a BMW, wears expensive clothes. At least, she did before she got fired. She got fired 3 months ago. Too many complaints from clients. She's good at looking successful, Kyle. But she's drowning in credit card debt. I know because Derek told me he was going to help her get back on her feet. That was right before he asked for a divorce. My hands were shaking. Sarah, did Derek ever borrow money from Tom? Silence. Then, quietly, yes. About 2 years ago. $15,000. He told Tom it was for our daughter Emma's medical bills, but Emma never had any medical bills. He bought a motorcycle with it, a Harley Davidson, kept it at his friend's house so I would not know. I found out 6 months later when I saw pictures on his friend's Facebook page. I felt sick. Tom never told me about lending Derek that money. He never said a word. Did Derek ever pay Tom back? I asked, though I already knew the answer. No. And when Tom asked about it once, Derek told him to stop being so uptight about money. Said his parents owed him for all the years they did not give him the childhood he deserved. Can you believe that? You and Tom gave him everything. We talked for another 20 minutes. Sarah told me things that broke my heart. How Derek had become increasingly entitled over the years. How he always blamed others for his problems. How he told Sarah that his parents were holding him back by not helping him more financially. After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table and cried. Not just for Tom, but for the son I thought I had raised. Where had I gone wrong? When did Derek become this person? I was still sitting there an hour later when my mailbox buzzer rang. I went downstairs and found a large envelope with my name on it. No return address, Just my name and handwriting I recognized immediately. Tom's handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a letter, several pages long, dated 2 months before Tom died. My dearest Kyle, it began. If you're reading this, I'm gone. I asked Mr. Harrison to send this to you 1 month after my death. I need to tell you something about Derek that I never had the courage to say while I was alive. I sank down onto the stairs and read. Tom's letter told me everything. He had watched Derek change over the past 5 years, becoming more demanding, more entitled, more manipulative. Derek had asked for money multiple times, always with excuses. Tom loaned him the $15,000, believing Derek's story about Emma's medical bills. When he discovered Derek had lied, Tom's heart broke. I realized then, Tom wrote, that our son had become someone I didn't recognize. I tried to talk to him about it, but he became defensive and angry. He said I was being judgmental. He said I didn't understand what it was like to try to keep up with his friends and colleagues who all had money. I told him that integrity matters more than appearances. He laughed at me, Kyle. He actually laughed. Tom went on to explain that this was why he put everything solely in my name. He knew Derek would come after me for money. He knew Derek would try to manipulate me, use my grief and loneliness against me. You're stronger than you think you are, Tom wrote. But you have a soft heart, and Derek knows how to exploit that. Don't let him. You deserve security after all these years of standing by me. I worked my whole life for you. Not for him to waste on motorcycles and vacations and impressing women who only care about money. The letter went on for several more pages. Tom apologized for not addressing the situation more directly while he was alive. He said he kept hoping Derek would mature, would wake up and realize what he was doing. But it never happened. The final paragraph made me cry so hard I could barely breathe. Be strong, my love. You're smarter than you think. Trust yourself. Trust your instincts. If Derek comes to you asking for money, or wanting to move you into his house, or any scheme like that, say no. You have everything you need now. Live your life. Be happy. Plant those roses in the garden you always wanted. Take that trip to Alaska we never got around to. And know that I'm watching over you, proud of the strong, beautiful woman you've always been. All my love. Forever and always. Tom. I sat on those stairs for an hour, reading the letter over and over, crying and smiling at the same time. Tom knew. He had seen it all coming, and he had protected me. That evening, Derek called. I let it go to voicemail. He left a message. Mom, I need to know your decision. Amber and I have made plans. We need you to commit. Call me back tonight. The entitlement in his voice was clear now. I was not his mother. I was a resource he was trying to secure. I did not call him back. The next day, he called 3 more times. I did not answer. The day after that, he showed up at my apartment building, but I did not buzz him in. He stood outside for 20 minutes, calling my phone repeatedly, before finally leaving. That night, I got a text from him. Fine. If that's how you want to play this, Mom. But family helps family. Dad would be ashamed of you. That last sentence was designed to hurt me, to make me doubt myself. But it had the opposite effect. Because I had Tom's letter, I knew exactly what Tom would think. And he would be proud of me for standing my ground. I texted back just 3 words. I have his letter. Derek responded immediately. What letter? I did not answer. Let him wonder. Let him worry. 2 days later, Derek and Amber showed up at my door again. This time, I let them in. But I was ready. Derek looked angry. Amber looked nervous. What letter were you talking about? Derek demanded. I pulled out Tom's letter and held it up. Your father wrote to me before he died. He told me everything. About the $15,000. About the lies. About how you've changed. Derek's face went white. That's private. You can't just. He wrote it to me, I said calmly. And he was right about everything, including what you were going to do after he died. Amber looked at Derek. What $15,000? You told me your parents never had any money. Derek ignored her. Hello. I'm delighted to assist you with our voice services. Choose a voice that resonates with you, and let's begin our creative audio journey together. Not anymore. After they left, I sat down and called Mr. Harrison. It was time to take the next step. It was time to protect myself legally, because I had a feeling Derek was not done yet, and I was right. Over the next week, Derek launched what I can only describe as a campaign against me. It started with phone calls. 5, 6, sometimes 8 calls a day. I stopped answering after the first 2, but he kept calling anyway. The voicemails got progressively angrier. "Mom, this is ridiculous. Just call me back." Then, "You're being selfish. This is not how Dad raised you." Then, "Fine. Ignore your own son. See how that works out for you." When the calls did not work, he moved to text messages. Long paragraphs about how I was abandoning him, how I was choosing to be alone instead of being with family, how Tom would be disappointed in me. Each message was carefully crafted to make me feel guilty, to make me doubt my decision. But I had Tom's letter, and every time I felt myself weakening, I read it again. Then Derek took it to social media. He did not mention me by name, but the posts were obvious. Things like, "It's sad when parents forget who took care of them," and "Some people choose possessions over family." His friends would comment with supportive messages, not knowing the real story. I did not have social media, but Patricia sent me screenshots. The worst part was when Derek started calling other family members. He called Tom's brother in Florida, telling him I was acting strange, that grief had made me paranoid and irrational. He called my cousin in Chicago, saying he was worried about my mental health. He even called Tom's old coworkers, saying I was refusing help and isolating myself. Most people saw through it, thank God. Patricia especially. She called each person Derek contacted and told them the truth. But some people believed him. I started getting concerned calls from relatives I had not spoken to in years, asking if I was okay, if I needed help. It was exhausting and hurtful. But it also showed me exactly who my son had become. This was not grief or confusion. This was calculated manipulation. Through all of this, I was making moves of my own. I met with Mr. Harrison twice more. We went over all of Tom's assets carefully. Mr. Harrison told me something I had not known. Tom had actually discussed his concerns about Derek with him months before he died. Tom came to me very troubled. Mr. Harrison said, "He told me about the loan, about Derek's attitude, about his worries for your future. That's when we drafted the will to leave everything solely to you." Tom was very specific. He said, "I need to know Shell be taken care of, no matter what Derek does." We set up additional protections, a trust that would ensure the house and money could not be touched even if Derek tried to claim some kind of legal right to it. Not that he had any legal standing, but Mr. Harrison said it was better to be safe. Then, I did something I had been putting off. I went to see the house Tom left me. It was in a neighborhood called Laurelhurst in Portland, about 3 hours south of Seattle. I drove down on a Wednesday morning, and when I pulled up to the address, I actually gasped. It was beautiful. A craftsman-style home with a wide front porch, painted soft yellow with white trim. There was a garden in front, overgrown now but full of potential. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, hardwood floors throughout. The kitchen had been recently updated. There was a sunroom in the back that looked out onto a small yard. I walked through it crying. Tom had bought this for us, for me, and he never got to see me enjoy it. I made a decision right then. I was moving in. I was leaving Seattle, leaving that tiny rental apartment, leaving the memories and the pain and Derek's harassment. I was starting over in this beautiful house that my husband worked so hard to give me. Over the next 2 weeks, I quietly packed my things. I did not tell Derek. I did not tell anyone except Patricia. I hired movers for a Tuesday morning when I knew Derek would be at work. I also started driving the Lexus Tom had left me. It was only 2 years old, silver, with leather seats and every feature you could imagine. I had been taking the bus everywhere since Tom died, trying to stay under the radar. But now I was done hiding. The day before I moved, I went to see a grief counselor named Janet that Mr. Harrison recommended. I thought I did not need therapy, but Patricia insisted. Janet was maybe 60, with kind eyes and a calm voice. I told her everything, about Tom, about Derek, about the inheritance, about the guilt I felt for not being able to fix my relationship with my son. Janet listened to everything, then said something that changed my perspective. "Kyle, you didn't create this situation. Derek's choices are his own. You enabled some of his behavior over the years by always giving in, always making excuses for him. But that doesn't mean you caused who he became. He made those choices." We talked about boundaries, about self-protection, about the difference between love and enabling. Janet helped me see that protecting myself was not the same as abandoning my son. It was actually the kindest thing I could do for both of us. I saw Janet 3 times before I moved. Each session helped me feel stronger, more certain that I was doing the right thing. The move to Portland went smoothly. Derek never knew until it was done. I changed my phone number and only gave the new one to people I trusted. I updated my address with Social Security and my doctor. I started fresh. The house felt like a sanctuary. I spent the first week just settling in, arranging furniture, planning what I wanted to do with the garden. I bought paint for the sunroom. I hung pictures of Tom and me from better times. I thought maybe Derek would let it go, would move on with his life. I was wrong. 3 weeks after I moved, I received a certified letter at my new address. Someone had found me. The letter was from a legal office, though not a legitimate law firm. It was from Amber's father, who apparently was a paralegal. The letter accused me of elder financial abuse, claiming I was hiding assets that legally belonged to the family estate and that Derek, as Tom's son, was entitled to half of everything Tom owned. It demanded that I provide documentation of all assets within 10 days or face legal action. I sat at my kitchen table reading this ridiculous letter, and instead of feeling afraid, I felt angry. This was the final insult. They were actually threatening to sue me for inheritance that was legally, completely, and rightfully mine. I called Mr. Harrison immediately. He read the letter and actually laughed. "Kyle, this is nonsense. They have no case whatsoever. Tom's will is ironclad. Everything was his separate property, earned during the marriage but legally left to you as the surviving spouse. Derek has zero claim to any of it. Can they really sue me?" I asked. "Anyone can file a lawsuit," Mr. Harrison said, "but they won't win. In fact, if they do file, we can countersue for harassment. However, I have to warn you, even though they can't win, they can make your life miserable. Drag things out, cost you time and stress and money in legal fees defending yourself. So, what do I do?" Mr. Harrison thought for a moment. "You face them head on your terms. Show them you're not afraid and that you have the law completely on your side. Sometimes the best defense is a strong offense." That night, I made a decision. I was done being passive. I was done letting Derek and Amber intimidate me. It was time to confront this directly. I called Derek. He answered on the first ring. "Mom, we need to meet," I said. "You, me, and Amber. Tomorrow, 2 o'clock. At the coffee shop on Morrison Street in Portland." "Portland? You're in Portland, tomorrow, 2 o'clock. If you want to discuss Tom's estate, well, discuss it. But we do it face to face, and we do it once. After this, you leave me alone." There was a pause. Then Derek said, "Fine. Well, be there." I hung up before he could say anything else. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From determination. I called Mr. Harrison and asked him to prepare copies of everything: the will, Tom's letter, the bank statements showing the unpaid loan, a timeline of Derek's behavior. I was going into this meeting armed with truth. That night, I barely slept. I kept rehearsing what I would say, how I would stay calm, how I would not let Derek manipulate me. I read Tom's letter one more time. "Be strong, my love. You're smarter than you think." "Okay, Tom. I'm going to be strong. For both of us." The coffee shop was busy when I arrived at 1:45. I chose a table in the back corner where we would have some privacy but still be in a public space. I ordered a cup of tea I did not drink and waited. Derek and Amber arrived at exactly 2 o'clock. Derek looked tired, older somehow. Amber looked nervous, her usual confidence missing. They sat down across from me. Nobody said anything for a moment. Finally, Derek spoke. "So you moved to Portland?" "Yes." "Without telling me." "I don't need your permission to move, Derek." He flinched at that. "Good." Amber jumped in. "Kyle, we got your message about wanting to discuss Tom's estate. We think it's only fair that Derek gets half of whatever Tom left. He was his son." I pulled out the folder Mr. Harrison had prepared. I placed it on the table between us. "Let's discuss it then." I opened the folder and pulled out the first document. Tom's will. I slid it across to them. "This is your father's will. As you can see, it's signed, notarized, and witnessed. It leaves everything to me. Not half. Everything." Derek barely glanced at it. "That can be contested. It can be tried. I said calmly. Mr. Harrison says you're welcome to attempt it. It will cost you around $20,000 in legal fees, and you'll lose. But if you want to waste your money, go ahead. Amber was reading the will now, her face getting paler. Derek, you said they didn't have anything. You said your dad was basically broke. He was, Derek stammered. I didn't know about any of this. You didn't know, I said, because your father specifically did not tell you. And I'm going to tell you why. I pulled out the next document. Tom's letter to me. I did not let them read it, but I read portions out loud. The parts about the loan, about the lies, about Derek's growing entitlement and manipulation. Derek's face was turning red. That's not fair. You can't just read some letter that I can't even verify is real. It's real, I said. It's in your father's handwriting. It's dated. And Mr. Harrison has the original in his safe. Your father saw exactly what you were becoming, Derek, and he protected me from it. I pulled out the bank statements next. Harris proof of the $15,000 loan your father gave you. The one you said was for Emma's medical bills. The one you actually spent on a motorcycle. The one you never paid back. Amber turned to Derek. You told me your parents never helped you with anything. You said they were tight with money and never gave you what you deserved. Amber, not now. Derek hissed. But Amber was done. No, Derek, you told me we were going to help your poor widowed mother who had nothing. You said she would be grateful for our help. You lied to me about everything. I didn't lie, Derek protested. I didn't know Mom had all this. But you hoped I did, I said quietly. That's why you showed up a week after your father's funeral with your plan all worked out. That's why you had already calculated my Social Security income. That's why you wanted me to pay you $600 a month in rent. You were betting that your father left me something, and you wanted to get your hands on it. Derek stood up abruptly. This is unbelievable. I'm your son, your only child, and you're treating me like I'm some kind of criminal. Sit down, I said firmly, and to my surprise, he did. I looked at my son, really looked at him, and felt an overwhelming sadness. Your father loved you so much, Derek. He worked 12-hour days his entire life to provide for us. He taught you about integrity and hard work and treating people with respect. But somewhere along the way, you stopped listening. You started thinking the world owed you something. That we owed you something. You're my parents, Derek said, his voice breaking a little. Parents are supposed to help their kids. We did help you, I said. We gave you a safe home, a good education, love, support, opportunities. Your father loaned you $15,000 that you never paid back. But none of it was ever enough, was it? You always wanted more. Amber stood up. I can't do this. Derek, I'm leaving. Amber, wait. Derek called after her, but she was already walking away. Derek watched her go, then turned back to me. His face was a mixture of anger and panic. Are you happy now, Mom? My relationship is falling apart. Your relationship is falling apart because it was built on lies, I said. She thought she was getting someone who would take care of her. You thought you were getting someone who would make you look successful. Neither of you was being honest. Derek sat back down heavily. So that's it? You're just going to keep everything and leave me with nothing? You don't have nothing, I said. You have a job. You have your health. You have a daughter who loves you. You have opportunities your father never had. What you don't have is access to money you were never entitled to. I pulled out one more document, a typed letter I had written that morning. This is what's going to happen, I said. You're going to stop calling me with demands. You're going to stop telling family members that I'm mentally unstable. You're going to stop threatening legal action you have no grounds for. And in return, I won't press charges for harassment or file a restraining order. Derek's eyes widened. You would do that? To your own son? If you force me to, I said. Your father protected me, Derek, and I'm going to honor that by protecting myself. I love you. I will always love you, but I will not let you manipulate or exploit me. Those days are over. I stood up and gathered my documents. If you ever want to have a real relationship with me again, not based on money or what you think I owe you, my door is open, but it will be on my terms, and it starts with you getting help. Therapy, counseling, whatever you need to figure out why you think this behavior is acceptable. I walked out of that coffee shop with my head held high. Behind me, I heard Derek call out, Mom, wait, but I kept walking. I got to my car, sat in the driver's seat, and burst into tears. Not sad tears, tears of release, tears of strength, tears of knowing I had finally stood up for myself. My phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. How did it go? I texted back. I did it. I stood my ground. Tom would be proud. She responded immediately. He is proud. And so am I. I drove back to my house in Portland, to the beautiful yellow Craftsman with the overgrown garden. I walked through the empty rooms that smelled like fresh paint and possibility. I stood in the sunroom and looked out at the yard, and for the first time since Tom died, I felt something other than grief. I felt hope. The next 2 weeks were quiet. Derek did not call. He did not text. I heard from Patricia that Amber had indeed broken up with him and moved back in with her parents. Part of me felt bad for Derek, but a larger part of me knew this was necessary. He needed to hit bottom before he could begin to rebuild. I focused on making the house my own. I hired a landscaper to help me clear out the front garden, but I did the planting myself. Roses, just like Tom had wanted. Red ones, pink ones, white ones. I planted them and talked to Tom while I worked, telling him about my day, about the house, about how much I missed him. I joined a book club at the local library. 6 women, all around my age, meeting every Thursday night to discuss novels and drink wine and laugh about life. It felt good to make new friends, to talk about something other than grief and family drama. I started taking painting classes at the community center on Saturday mornings. I had always wanted to try watercolors, and now I had the time and the mental space to do it. I was terrible at first, but I was getting better. The instructor, a woman named Carol, said I had a good eye for color. Twice a week, I volunteered at the animal shelter. I walked dogs and cleaned cages, and played with cats who needed socialization. It was hard work, but it was rewarding. The animals did not care about inheritance or family drama. They just wanted love and attention. And I had plenty of both to give. I drove up to Boise to visit Patricia for a long weekend. We talked about Tom, about our memories of him, about Derek. Patricia told me stories about Tom as a young man that I had never heard. We cried and laughed and ate too much ice cream. On the drive back to Portland, I took the scenic route through Idaho and Oregon. I stopped at viewpoints and took pictures. I ate at small-town diners. I felt free in a way I had not felt in years. Life was good. Not perfect, but good. I was learning to be alone without being lonely. I was building a life that was mine, built on the foundation Tom had given me. 3 months after our confrontation at the coffee shop, Patricia called me with news. Derek lost his job, she said. Downsizing at the dealership. Hes looking for work, but it's been tough. I felt a pang of concern, but I did not reach out. This was Derek's journey. He needed to figure it out himself. A week later, Patricia called again. Derek's been seeing a therapist. His ex-wife Sarah told me. Apparently, losing Amber and his job was a wake-up call. Hes starting to deal with some things. I was glad to hear it, but I still kept my distance. Words were easy. Change was hard. I needed to see real, sustained change before I let Derek back into my life. 6 months after Tom's death, on what would have been his 69th birthday, I was in my garden planting a special memorial rose bush. It was called Eternal Flame, with beautiful red and orange petals. I had ordered a small bronze plaque to place next to it. Tom, you gave me roots and wings. I was kneeling in the dirt, my hands deep in the soil, when I heard a car pull into my driveway. I looked up and saw Derek's car. My heart started pounding. I had not given him my address. He must have found it somehow. Derek got out of the car slowly. He looked different, thinner, tired, but also somehow more present than I had seen him in years. He walked up to the edge of the garden but did not come any closer. Hi, Mom. The house is beautiful. Dad would have loved it. I stood up, brushing dirt from my jeans. He did love it. He bought it for us. I know, Derek said quietly. Mr. Harrison told me. I went to see him last week, asked him to explain everything Dad did and why. He showed me Dad's notes from when they were planning the will. I did not say anything. I just waited. I'm not here to ask for anything, Derek said. I just wanted you to know that I've been in therapy for 3 months now, twice a week, and I'm starting to understand a lot of things I didn't want to see before. Like what? I asked. Like how entitled I became. How I treated you and Dad like you owed me something when you had already given me everything. How I let Amber and her lifestyle and my own ego turn me into someone Dad wouldn't be proud of. His voice cracked on that last part. I felt my own eyes getting wet, but I blinked the tears back. Derek continued. My therapist asked me to make a list of all the things I was angry about, all the things I thought my parents didn't give me. And then she asked me to make a list of all the things you and Dad actually did for me. He pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket. The second list was 3 pages long. The first list was half a page. And most of the things on the first list were things I wanted, not things I needed. He handed me the paper. I unfolded it and read. College tuition. A car when I graduated. Help with my first apartment. No interest loans when I was struggling. Babysitting for Emma. Support during my divorce. Love, patience, forgiveness. The list went on and on. My vision blurred as I read it. I'm sorry, Mom, Derek said. I'm so sorry for how I treated you. For how I treated Dad. For thinking the world owed me something when I already had everything that mattered. I looked at my son, and I saw something I had not seen in years. Genuine remorse. Real understanding. The beginning of change. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, Derek said. I know I hurt you. I know I damaged our relationship, maybe beyond repair, but I wanted you to know that I'm working on myself. I'm trying to become the person Dad believed I could be. Just then, another car pulled into my driveway. I looked up and saw Sarah, Derek's ex-wife, getting out. She waved at me, then hung back, giving Derek and me space. I looked at Derek questioningly. Sarah and I have been talking, Derek said. Not about getting back together, but about co-parenting Emma better. About being better people. She's been helping me see things clearly. She told me I needed to come here and face you, not to ask for forgiveness but to take accountability. Sarah walked up to join us. She smiled at me warmly. Hi, Kyle. I hope it's okay that I came. I thought Derek might need moral support. I hugged her. It's more than okay. Thank you for being here. The three of us stood there in my garden for a moment, the afternoon sun warm on our faces. Finally, I spoke. Derek, I appreciate you coming here. I appreciate the work you're doing on yourself. But I need you to understand something. I'm not giving you money. Not now, not ever. What your father left me is mine, to live on, to feel secure with, to enjoy the life we built together. I know, Derek said. I don't want your money, Mom. I want my mother back, if you'll give me that chance. I thought about it for a long moment. I thought about Tom's letter, about his faith in me to make the right decision. I thought about the past 6 months of peace and healing, and I thought about the man standing in front of me, finally willing to do the hard work of change. I'm willing to try, I said, but it has to be on my terms. We start slow. Supervised visits. Lunch once a month. No discussion of money, no demands, no manipulation. You show up on time, you ask about my life, you share yours. We rebuild trust one step at a time. Derek nodded, tears streaming down his face now. Whatever you need, Mom. However long it takes. I just want to be your son again. Not someone who uses you, but someone who loves you. Sarah stepped forward. I'll help keep him accountable. And Kyle, I hope you and I can rebuild our relationship too. I missed you. I hugged her again. I missed you too. We made plans for lunch the following month, just Derek and me, at a restaurant in Portland. He promised to call before he came, to respect my space and my boundaries. As they were leaving, Derek turned back one last time. Mom, the roses are beautiful. Dad would be so happy to see what you've done with his garden. After they drove away, I stood in my garden for a long time, looking at the roses, the house, the life I was building. Tom had given me the foundation. Now I was building something beautiful on top of it. And for the first time, I believed that maybe Derek and I could find our way back to each other. Not the way we were before, but something new. Something healthier. Something real. 2 years have passed since Tom died. 2 years of grief and growth. Pain and healing. Endings and new beginnings. Derek and I did rebuild our relationship, slowly and carefully. That first lunch turned into monthly dinners. Those dinners turned into phone calls every week. The phone calls turned into him helping me with projects around the house. Not because I needed the help, but because he wanted to be there. He followed through on therapy. He worked on himself. He got a new job, not as glamorous as the car dealership, but honest work that he seemed proud of. He started paying off his debts. He apologized to people he had hurt, including Sarah and Emma. About a year after our confrontation, Derek started dating a woman named Angela. She was a second-grade teacher, kind and genuine, with a laugh that filled a room. The first time he brought her to meet me, I could see the difference. Derek was not trying to impress her. He was not showing off or pretending to be someone he was not. He was just himself, and that was enough. Angela knew about our past, about the inheritance, about Derek's mistakes. Derek had been honest with her about everything. She told me once, over coffee in my sunroom, "I'm not interested in what Derek has. I'm interested in who he is. And he's working every day to be a better person." That's the man I fell in love with. Derek started spending time with Emma again. Really spending time. Not just the obligatory visits. He took her to the zoo, helped her with her homework, showed up for her school events. Sarah told me Emma was happier than she had been in years. As for me, I settled into my life in Portland. The house became my sanctuary. I finished painting the sunroom a soft sage green. I planted vegetables in the backyard and made more friends than I had had in years. The book club became a lifeline. A group of women who understood loss and resilience and the strength it takes to start over. I took that trip to Alaska I had always dreamed about. I spent 2 weeks there, taking a cruise through the Inside Passage, watching whales and glaciers, feeling Tom's presence in every sunset. I scattered some of his ashes in the ocean, whispering my love to the wind. I learned to be alone without being lonely. I learned that security is not just about money, but about knowing your own worth. I learned that love sometimes means saying no, setting boundaries, protecting yourself even from people you care about. The money Tom left me sits mostly untouched in the bank, earning interest, giving me peace of mind. I live comfortably on my Social Security and a small pension Tom had from his union. The house is paid off, the cars are reliable, and I have everything I need. On the second anniversary of Tom's death, Derek came to visit. He brought flowers for Tom's memorial rosebush and a card for me. Inside the card, he had written, "Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave you every reason to. Thank you for being strong enough to say no. It saved my life. I love you, Mom." We stood in the garden together, looking at the roses that had grown so beautifully over 2 years. The eternal flame bush was blooming with those stunning red and orange petals, reaching toward the sun. "I think about Dad a lot," Derek said. "About how hard he worked. About how he tried to teach me things I was not ready to hear. I wish I could tell him I finally get it." "He knows," I said. "Wherever he is, he knows." Derek helped me plant a new rosebush that day, a yellow one called New Beginning. We worked side by side in the dirt, talking about memories, about mistakes, about forgiveness, and second chances. That evening, after Derek left, I sat on my porch with a cup of tea and watched the sunset. I thought about everything that had happened, everything I had learned, everything Tom had given me. He had given me more than a house and money. He had given me the gift of his wisdom, his foresight, his protection. He had seen what I could not see, and he had made sure I would be okay. More than okay. Happy, secure, free. I learned that saying no is not selfish. It is self-preservation. I learned that enabling bad behavior is not love. It is fear disguised as compassion. I learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is let them face the consequences of their choices. I learned that I was stronger than I thought, that I could stand on my own, that I did not need to sacrifice my security or my peace to prove my love. Derek learned too. He learned that entitlement is a prison, that integrity matters more than appearances, that the relationships built on honesty and respect are the only ones worth having. We both learned that it is never too late to change, to grow, to become the people we were meant to be. Tom gave me roots and wings, the roots of security, of knowing I was loved and protected, the wings of freedom, of choice, of building a life that honored both of us. Now, as I sit here in the house Tom left me, surrounded by the garden we dreamed of, I feel his presence, not in a sad, grieving way, but in a peaceful, grateful way. He is in every rose that blooms, every sunset I watch from this porch, every decision I make with confidence and strength. People will show you who they are if you pay attention. Tom showed me he was a protector, a provider, a man of wisdom and foresight. Derek showed me he was struggling, entitled, lost, but ultimately capable of change, and I showed myself that I was stronger than I ever imagined. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the space to become who they are meant to be, even if it means letting them fall first. Derek had to fall to find himself. I had to stand firm to discover my own strength. If there is one thing I want you to take away from my story, it is this: your security matters, your peace matters, your future matters, not because you are selfish, but because you deserve to honor the sacrifices made for you, to protect what you have been given, and to build a life that brings you joy. Love does not mean sacrificing yourself to enable someone else's bad behavior. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no. Tom knew that. He protected me, even from beyond the grave. And now I protect myself, not out of fear or anger, but out of respect for the life we built together and the future he wanted me to have. Derek and I have something real now. Not the superficial relationship we had before, built on obligation and unspoken resentments, but something honest and healthy, built on boundaries and respect and genuine care. And that is worth more than any amount of money. I am 69 years old now. I have a garden full of roses, a house that feels like home, friends who make me laugh, and a son who is finally becoming the man his father always believed he could be. Tom would be proud of both of us, for learning, for growing, for finding our way through the pain to something better. I water my roses every evening, and I whisper to Tom, "Thank you, for knowing, for protecting me, for believing in us both." And in the rustling of the leaves and the warmth of the setting sun, I feel his answer. "You did good, my love. You did real good." So let me ask you something. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice between protecting yourself and giving in to family pressure? Have you ever had to set boundaries with someone you love, even when it hurt? How did you find the strength to do it? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart or made you think about your own relationships, please hit that like button. It helps others find these stories too. And if you want to hear more stories about resilience, family, and finding strength you did not know you had, please subscribe to this channel and click the bell so you never miss a new story. Share this with someone who might need to hear it. Maybe someone who is struggling with a difficult family situation or learning to set boundaries. Sometimes we all need a reminder that protecting ourselves is not selfish. It is necessary. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it brought you comfort, inspiration, or at least a moment of reflection. May you always have the strength to protect your peace, the wisdom to know when to say no, and the courage to build the life you deserve. Until next time, take care of yourselves. You are stronger than you think.